No options left. So we called the species, even the gods, Fear Part 1. The Galactic Assembly had stood for 11,000 years. It was the greatest empire in the universe. 12 species had built it together. They ruled over 47 worlds across 3 parts of the galaxy. They had cured every disease. They had tamed black holes. They had created peace that lasted for thousands of years. They believed nothing could destroy them. Then the Hollow came. Nobody knew where they came from. One day, the stars were normal. The next day, billions of black ships appeared from the empty space between galaxies. These ships did not come to conquer. They did not come to enslave. They came to erase. Every planet they touched turned to dust. Every fleet that fought them vanished without sending a single message. Admiral Una stood before the Emergency Council. She was from the Velith species. Her body was tall and blue, with 4 strong arms. But today, those arms were shaking. Behind her, a large screen showed a map of all known space. More than half of it was now dark. Those dark areas meant death. Those dark areas meant nothing was left. "We have tried everything," Una said. Her voice was quiet and tired. "Our weapons do not hurt them. Our shields do not stop them. Our fastest ships cannot run away from them. If they continue at this speed, they will destroy all of us in 3 years." The council chamber was almost empty. Once, hundreds of leaders sat here. Now, only 17 remained. The rest had been erased along with their worlds. High Arbiter Toland slowly rose from his seat. He was from the oldest species in the galaxy. His body was made of pure light and energy. He had watched stars being born. He had seen civilizations rise and fall. But even he looked weak and tired today. "There is one thing we have not tried," he said. The room went completely silent. Everyone knew what he meant. Everyone had heard the old stories. "You cannot be serious," said Representative Vela. She was from the Sirathi species, a being with silver scales and sharp teeth. "The quarantine exists for a reason. We sealed that place 10,000 years ago. We made a promise. We swore we would never open it again. Our promises mean nothing if we all die," Tolan replied. Admiral Una stepped forward. She looked confused. "What are you talking about? I have only heard small stories. Tales told to scare young soldiers. What is really in the quarantine?" Tolan's light flickered. It was like a sigh of deep shame. "At the edge of the galaxy, there is a single star system," he began. "Around it, we built the strongest prison ever made. All 12 founding species worked together to build it. We used technologies that we later made illegal. We used sciences that we later destroyed all records of. We did all of this to keep them locked inside. Them? Who? A species that should not exist." Toland's voice was heavy with old fear. "A species that did not evolve to live in peace with the universe. They evolved to conquer it. They are violent in ways we cannot understand. They are creative in ways we cannot imagine. They change and adapt faster than any living thing has the right to." Toland paused. His light grew dimmer. "We watched them for 1,000 years before we made contact. In that time, they went from throwing sharp rocks at each other to splitting atoms. They were close to discovering faster than light travel when we found them. If we had waited 1 more century, they would have found us first. So you put them in prison?" Admiral Una asked. "We had no choice. Their planet was dying. They were killing it themselves through their own carelessness. But even then, they kept advancing. They kept growing stronger. We offered them a deal. Join the assembly. Accept some limits on how fast you can grow. Accept some rules about violence. In return, you can live among us in peace." What did they say? Toland's light flickered violently. The memory clearly caused him pain. Their leaders said they would rather burn the entire galaxy to ash than accept chains. They said freedom was worth more than survival. They meant it. So we built the barrier. We locked their entire star system inside. We erased all records of their existence. We swore to never speak of them again. For 10,000 years, we kept that promise. The chamber was silent for a very long time. Every leader was thinking about what this meant. Every leader was afraid. What did they call themselves? Admiral Yuna finally asked. This species that scared the founders so much. Tolan's voice was barely a whisper. His light was so dim it was hard to see him. Humans. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Or perhaps like a tiny spark of hope in endless darkness. Admiral Yuna looked at the dark map behind her. She looked at the empty seats where her friends used to sit. She looked at the few remaining leaders of a dying empire. Tell me more, she said. Tell me everything about these humans. And so, for the first time in 10,000 years, the old stories were spoken aloud again. Stories of a small species on a small planet. Stories of creatures who fought everything, including each other. Stories of beings who refused to accept any limit, any boundary, any cage. Stories of the only species that had ever made the gods of the galaxy fear. The assembly had run out of options. Their fleets were gone. Their worlds were dust. Their hope was dead. All they had left was a prison they had sworn never to open. All they had left was humanity. No options left. So we called the species Even the Gods Fear Part 2. The journey to the quarantine zone took 3 weeks. Admiral Yuna commanded the last diplomatic ship in the fleet. High Arbiter Tolan came with her. A small group of leaders from the remaining assembly species joined them. They were all afraid. They were all desperate. Nobody spoke much during the trip. What was there to say? They were going to open a prison that had been sealed for 10,000 years. They were going to ask for help from a species that hated them. They were betting the future of the galaxy on creatures that their ancestors had called monsters. As they got closer to the barrier, Yuna's young science officer ran to her. Her name was Hana. She was also from the Vela species, but she was young and had never seen war before. Admiral, something is wrong, Hana said. Her voice was shaking. The barrier is failing. Failing? That barrier was built to last 1,000,000 years. Yes, but it is not falling apart from age. Hannah pointed at her instruments. Her 4 hands were trembling. Someone is taking it apart. From the inside. Yuna felt her blood turn cold. They are trying to escape? They have been trying for 10,000 years, Tolan said quietly. He floated next to them, his light very dim. And they are succeeding. Our calculations say they would break through in about 50 years. Even if we did nothing today, they would soon be free. The ship passed through a weak spot in the barrier. What they saw on the other side made everyone stop breathing. They had expected to find a simple system, maybe a species that had gone backwards after so many years alone. Maybe primitive people living in caves, having forgotten how to build anything. Instead, they found a system that had been completely changed. The original planet was still there, but now it was just one of many. Humans had spread to dozens of worlds. Huge stations orbited every planet and moon. Artificial rings circled the giant gas planets. The asteroid belt had been rebuilt into one enormous living space. This is impossible, Hana whispered. They had no help, no trade, no access to knowledge from outside. How did they do this? Because they never stop, Tolan said. We put them in a cage hoping they would calm down. Instead, we gave them a problem to solve. Humans always solve problems. A voice came through the ship's speakers. It spoke a strange language at first, but the translation machine quickly figured it out. Unknown ship, you have entered protected space. Tell us who you are right now, or we will destroy you." Admiral Yuna walked to the communication panel. She took a deep breath. "This is Admiral Yuna of the Galactic Assembly. We represent all the species of known space. We come asking for help." There was a long silence. Then a different voice answered. This one was older and harder. "The Galactic Assembly. So you still exist." The voice laughed bitterly. 10,000 years of silence. Now you need our help." Another pause. "I am Commander Park Do-yoon of the United Human Forces. I am sending you coordinates. Come along. If you try anything, you will learn that we have not been wasting time in our prison." The coordinates led to a massive station near the blue and green planet called Earth. As Yuna's small shuttle approached, she saw something that made her heart stop. Ships. Thousands of them. They were not rough, desperate ships built by a struggling species. They were smooth, dangerous warships that made assembly battleships look like toys for children. "They have been preparing," she whispered. "For 10,000 years, Talon said. Preparing to fight us." Commander Park Do-yoon met them in a simple gray room. He was small compared to the Velith. He stood barely 2 meters tall. His hair was gray. His face had many lines from age. But his eyes were sharp and cold, like a predator watching prey. Behind him stood a woman in a military uniform. Her name was Colonel Shin Mi-rae. She was younger, with dark hair and an expression of pure anger. "So," Park said. He sat down in a chair while the aliens remained standing. "The gods of the galaxy have come to visit their prisoners." "What changed?" Admiral Yuna stepped forward. She turned on the display showing everything the Hollow had destroyed. She explained it all. The sudden attack, the unstoppable advance, the complete failure of every defense. Park watched in silence. When she finished, he turned to Shin. "What do you think?" "It is a trap," Shin said flatly. "They want us to lower our defenses so they can finish killing us." "With respect, Colonel," Yuna said, "if we wanted to destroy you, we would have done it long ago." Shin laughed. It was a harsh sound with no humor in it. "You tried. Many times in the first 1,000 years. We have the records. We remember everything." Park raised his hand to silence her. He stood up. Even though he was small, he somehow filled the room. "Let me be very clear, Admiral. We do not care about your assembly. We do not care about your dozens of species or your thousands of worlds. You locked our ancestors in a cage. You threw away the key. You decided, without any trial, that we were too dangerous to live alongside you." His voice was cold and steady. "So give me one reason why I should not send you back through that barrier and let you burn." Admiral Yuna met his eyes. She did not look away. "Because the Hollow will not stop with us. When they finish destroying the assembly, they will come here. Your barrier is failing. In 50 years, you will face them alone. We have faced worse." "Have you?" This time, Tolan spoke. "I have seen what the Hollow do. They do not conquer. They do not leave slaves or ruins or even dust. They leave nothing, just emptiness. You have spent 10,000 years preparing to fight us. But we are not your enemy anymore. They are." Park stared at the ancient being of light for a long moment. Then he turned to Shin. "Call the council. Emergency meeting." He looked back at the aliens. "You will wait here. If we decide to help, you will know. If we decide not to help, you will also know." He walked out without another word. Shin followed him, giving the aliens one last look of pure hatred before the door closed. Admiral Yuna stood in the empty room. She had done everything she could. The fate of the galaxy was now in the hands of the species they had imprisoned, the species they had wronged, the species even the founders had feared. She could only hope that humans were as forgiving as they were dangerous. but looking at the cold fury in Park's eyes, she was not sure they were. No options left. So we called the species, even the gods, Fear Part 3. The human council met deep underground. The chamber was beneath the surface of Earth, protected by layers of rock and metal. 12 representatives sat around a large table. Each one led a different group of humans. For 10,000 years, these groups had sometimes fought each other. They had argued and disagreed about many things. But one thing united them all: the barrier, the prison, the rage at being locked away. Chairman Bei Junwoo called the meeting to order. He was very old. Medical technology had kept him alive for over 100 years. His hair was completely white. His hands shook slightly, but his mind was still sharp. He had spent his entire life preparing for the day the barrier would fall. "You have all seen the information," he said. "The aliens say a great threat is destroying their civilization. They want our help." Representative Choi Suni spoke first. Her voice was full of disgust. She led the group that believed humans should stay away from the galaxy forever. Why should we care what happens to them? They put our ancestors in a cage. They watched us struggle for 10,000 years. Now they come crying for help? Let them burn. Representative Kang Taemin shook his head. He led the group that wanted humans to spread across the stars. Because when this hollow thing finishes eating them, it will come for us. The barrier is already breaking. We cannot hide forever. So we trade one enemy for another, Suni said. At least we know what the assembly can do. We have been preparing to fight them for thousands of years. But we have not been preparing to fight the hollow. Taemin put up a display showing the destruction. Entire star systems gone. Fleets of thousands of ships vanished in seconds. The assembly had the biggest military in galactic history. The hollow went through them like they were nothing. Chairman Bei raised his hand. "I want to hear from our military." General Oh, what do you think? General Oh Soao stood up. She was in her 60s, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen many battles. She had led the defense forces for 30 years. "Our forces are strong," she said. 10,000 years of work have given us weapons the assembly cannot imagine. But we built everything to fight a normal enemy in a normal war. The hollow are not normal. She showed them footage from the assembly's battles. Black ships appearing from nowhere. Weapons that tore matter apart at the smallest level. Entire planets dissolved in hours. If even half of this is true, we're looking at something that breaks the laws of physics. Our current weapons might be just as useless as theirs. So we cannot win anyway, Suni said. Another reason to stay out of their war. I did not say we cannot win. General O's eyes were bright. I said our current weapons might not work. But that is a problem. And humans are very good at solving problems. She put up another display. This one showed human history. Wars, disasters, near extinction events. Look at what we have survived. We fought 2 world wars. We invented weapons that could destroy our own planet. We almost killed ourselves a dozen times. Then, locked in a prison with no hope of escape, we did the impossible. We spread to every corner of this system. We built technologies that the assembly cannot understand. We almost broke their unbreakable barrier. Her voice grew stronger. The assembly species evolved in safe, stable places. They live for thousands of years. They change slowly. They follow strict rules. Humans are different. We live short lives, so we move fast. We come from a dangerous world, so we are always ready to fight. We disagree with each other constantly, so we always have new ideas. You are saying we can win because we are more chaotic. Taemin asked. I am saying we can win because we are human. We do our best work when everything seems impossible. We fight hardest when we have nothing to lose. The assembly tried to control everything and make everything safe. That does not work against a threat like the Hollow. Maybe chaos is exactly what the galaxy needs right now. The debate went on for hours. Old arguments came up again. Old wounds were reopened. Representatives shouted at each other. Some wanted revenge on the assembly. Some wanted to save the galaxy. Some just wanted to survive. But slowly, something began to change. Representative Choi Soon-hee stood up again. Everyone expected another angry speech about isolation. Instead, she spoke quietly. My grandmother was one of the last people who remembered the day the barrier closed. She was just a child then. She told me stories about it before she died. She said something I never understood until now. The room went silent. She said the prison was not our punishment. It was our test. The galaxy locked us away because they were afraid of what we might become. And we spent 10,000 years becoming exactly what they feared. She looked around at the other representatives. We are stronger than we have ever been. We have weapons and ships and technology that would have seemed like magic to our ancestors. We built all of this while trapped in a cage. Imagine what we could build if we were free. But can we trust the assembly? Someone asked. No, Soon-hee admitted. We cannot. They imprisoned us. They will probably try to control us again someday. But the Hollow will not try to control us. The Hollow will simply erase us. At least with the assembly, we have a chance to fight back later. She took a deep breath. I have spent my whole life saying we should never trust the galaxy. I was wrong. We should not trust the galaxy. But we should not hide from it either. We should go out there and show them why they were right to be afraid. Chairman Bay looked around the table. Let us vote. All those in favor of joining the war against the Hollow, raise your hand. One by one, every hand went up. Even the ones who had argued the loudest against it. Even the ones who hated the assembly most deeply. The vote was unanimous. Chairman Bay nodded slowly. A small smile crossed his old face. Then it is decided. For the first time in 10,000 years, humanity will go to war among the stars. He stood up, and despite his age, he suddenly looked strong. Let us show the galaxy what happens when you cage humanity for 10,000 years, and then set them free. The representatives began to leave, each one going to prepare their forces. General, stayed behind. Do you really think we can win? She asked the chairman. I do not know, he admitted. But I know that if anyone can find a way to beat the impossible, it is us. That is what humans do. We look at impossible things and refuse to accept them. He walked to the door. Besides, we have been preparing to fight gods for 10,000 years. Time to see if we are ready. The war was about to begin. No options left. So we called the species, even the gods' fear part, 6 months after the vote. The largest fleet in galactic history gathered at the edge of the war zone. 10,000 assembly ships from 12 different species floated in formation. Next to them, 5,000 human ships emerged from the now open barrier. Admiral Yuna stood on the bridge of her flagship. She watched the human vessels take their positions. They moved differently than any ship she had ever seen. They were aggressive. They were fast. They worked together with perfect coordination. Like a pack of hunting animals, her young officer Hannah stood beside her, watching with wide eyes. They are beautiful, Hannah whispered, and terrifying. Commander Park Da-hoon's voice came through every ship in the fleet. All ships, this is Human Fleet Command. The main hollow formation is 3 light years ahead. Assembly forces will form the defensive line. Protect the escape routes. Human forces will handle the attack. Admiral Yuna spoke carefully. With respect, Commander, would it not be better if we attacked together? Your ships are not built for what we are about to do, Park replied simply. Stay back. Protect the retreat paths. If we fail, get as many of your people to safety as you can." Before Yuna could respond, the human fleet surged forward. They were not just fast. They were impossibly fast. Their engines bent space in ways that assembly physics said could not happen. How are they doing that? Hana demanded, checking her instruments in disbelief. "The same way they do everything," said Tolan, who had insisted on joining them for this battle. They found a way. The first hollow ships appeared moments later. They were massive black spheres that seemed to eat light itself. They did not fly through space normally. They simply appeared, emerging from folds in reality that should not exist. There were thousands of them. Millions. They opened fire. Immediately, their weapons were like nothing the assembly had ever seen. They did not shoot lasers or missiles. They shot beams of pure unmaking. Anything the beams touched simply stopped existing. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Just gone. 3 assembly ships in the defensive line vanished in the first attack. But the human ships did not slow down. They got faster. Admiral Yuna watched in shock as human fighters wove between the deadly beams. They moved with reflexes no assembly species could match. It was as if they could see the future. As if they knew where the attacks would be before they happened. Their weapons were equally strange. Missiles that passed through enemy shields like they were not there. Energy beams that seemed to burn through dimensions instead of space. Bombs that created small black holes, swallowing hollow ships by the dozens. "This is impossible," Yuna breathed. "How did they develop this?" 10,000 years, Tolan said quietly. "While we spent that time keeping things the same, they spent it changing everything. While we debated ideas, they experimented with reality itself. They had nothing but time and desperation. And humans are frighteningly creative when they are desperate." The battle raged for hours. It was chaos and fire and death across millions of kilometers of space. Dozens of human ships were destroyed. Each loss hurt. Each death was mourned. But for every human ship lost, 100 hollow vessels were destroyed. The black spheres that had consumed entire civilizations were finally meeting something they could not easily erase. Then, suddenly, everything changed. The hollow stopped attacking. Their remaining ships, still numbering in the thousands, pulled back. They gathered together into one massive structure. It pulsed with dark energy. It was bigger than a planet. Commander Park's voice came through the fleet channel. He sounded tense. "All ships fall back. They are doing something new." The massive structure spoke, not through radio, not through any communication technology anyone recognized. It spoke directly into every mind in the fleet. The voice was cold. It was alien. It was absolutely without emotion. "You are not like the others." Commander Park responded through the same strange mental channel. His thought voice was steady. "No, we are not. You fight. You adapt. You refuse to accept what must happen. That is humanity for you. We have consumed 11,000 civilizations. None have hurt us like you have in these few hours. None have matched our ability to change. There is a first time for everything." The voice went silent. Everyone waited. The dark structure pulsed slowly, like a heart beating. "We were made to end all chaos," the voice finally continued. "To turn all matter and energy into perfect stillness. That is our purpose. That is why we exist." "Sounds boring," Park replied. "We prefer things messy." "Yes." Something almost like interest entered the alien voice. "We understand now. We see why they feared you, why they locked you away. You are the opposite of everything we are. You are chaos itself. Is that supposed to insult us?" "It is a statement of fact. You cannot be consumed like the others. Your nature does not fit with our purpose. You would poison our perfection just by existing." The massive structure began to change. Its dark surface shifted and rippled. Admiral Yuna felt hope rise in her chest. Were they retreating? Had humanity actually won? But we are patient, the voice said. We will return when we have learned to consume even chaos. When we have found a way to unmake disorder itself. One by one, the hollow ships began to disappear. They folded into dimensions that should not exist. They slipped through cracks in reality. Within minutes, every single one was gone. The combined fleet floated in empty space. The stars shone coldly around them. Where millions of enemy ships had been, there was nothing but darkness. Did we win? Hannah asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. No, Park answered through the fleet channel. His voice was tired but honest. We survived. We made them afraid. We gave them a reason to leave. But they will come back. They said they would, and I believe them. So what do we do now? Admiral Yuna asked. Now we prepare. We build. We get stronger. We have time now. Maybe years. Maybe decades. Maybe centuries. But they will return. Colonel Shinmuray's voice joined the channel. The galaxy has never faced a threat like this before. And the galaxy has never had humanity fighting for it before. Maybe that is the point. Admiral Yuna looked out at the empty space where the hollow had been. She thought about the 11,000 civilizations that had been erased. She thought about how close her own people had come to the same fate. She thought about the small, violent, stubborn species that had saved them all. Commander Park, she said, I need to apologize. On behalf of the Assembly, for what our ancestors did to your people. There was a long silence. Keep your apology, Park finally said. But his voice had lost some of its coldness. Show us instead. Help us prepare for what is coming. Stand beside us when the hollow return. That will mean more than any words. Yuna nodded even though he could not see her. We will, I promise. Good. Park's voice softened just slightly. Because we are going to need everyone. Human and alien. Working together. The hollow gave us a gift today. They gave us time. Let us not waste it. The fleet began the long journey home. Behind them, the stars continued to shine. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the hollow were waiting, learning, preparing. But so was everyone else thought, and this time, they would not face the darkness alone. No options left. So we called the species, even the gods' fear, Part 5. 10 years had passed since the Battle of First Contact. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody could have imagined. The Galactic Assembly still existed, but it was not the same institution that had once imprisoned humanity. 9 species remained now. 3 had been erased by the hollow before humans joined the war. The survivors had been forced to face hard truths. Their old ways had failed. Their old beliefs had been wrong. Their old fears had almost destroyed them. Humans spread through the galaxy like water flowing downhill. They could not be stopped. They did not want to be stopped. They settled on worlds that the Assembly had abandoned. They built new worlds where none had existed before. They shared technologies that seemed impossible. They asked questions that made ancient species uncomfortable. Not everyone welcomed them. 10,000 years of imprisonment left deep scars. Some humans hated all aliens and always would. Some aliens still feared humanity and always would. Old prejudices died slowly. New conflicts arose. There were arguments and fights and sometimes blood. But something new was growing too. Admiral Yuna had retired from the military. She was old now, even by Velis standards. Her blue skin had faded to pale gray. Her forearms moved more slowly than before. But her eyes were still sharp, and her mind was still clear. She stood on the observation deck of a space station. This station orbited what had once been the Assembly's capital world. Through the large windows, She could see ships from a dozen species coming and going. Below the observation deck, a science team was working on something complicated. Half the team was human, half was Velith. They were arguing loudly about something, waving their hands and pointing at displays. Park Dohyun stood beside her. He had also retired. His hair was completely white now. His face had even more lines than before. But his eyes still had that sharp, dangerous look that Yuna had learned to respect. 10 years, Yuna said quietly. Sometimes it feels like 10 minutes. Sometimes it feels like 10 centuries. Time is strange that way, Park agreed. He watched the mixed science team below. A young human woman was drawing something on a board, while a young Velith male argued with her about it. We've come a long way. Yes, but many of my people are still afraid of your people. They try to hide it, but I can see it. They should be afraid. Park smiled slightly. It was not a threatening smile, just honest. We are dangerous. We know that better than anyone. Humans have spent most of our history being afraid of ourselves. Then how do you live with it? How do you accept being something that others fear? Park thought about this for a moment. Below them, the argument had stopped. The human woman had apparently convinced the Velith male. They were now working together excitedly on whatever they had been arguing about. We do not try to stop being dangerous, Park finally said. We try to point our danger at the right things. Give humans a problem to solve, a challenge to beat, an enemy to fight, and we will destroy ourselves trying to win. Take those things away, make us comfortable and lazy, and that is when we become truly dangerous. To ourselves and everyone else. So you need something to fight? We need something to do. Building works too. Exploring, learning, creating. The worst thing you can do to a human is give them nothing to care about. Yuna considered this. It was so different from how her species thought. Velith preferred stability, calmness, slow, careful progress over thousands of years. What happens now? She asked. The Hollow will return someday. Yes, and we will be ready. Not just humans. All of us together. That is the real change, Admiral. For the first time in galactic history, your species and mine are working side by side. Not as jailers and prisoners. As partners. Below them, the science team had finished their work. Whatever they had built, it was glowing with soft blue light. Everyone was cheering. Humans and Velith and members of other species too, all celebrating together. The assembly spent 10,000 years trying to make the galaxy safe, Park continued. They did it by locking away everything dangerous. It did not work. Maybe it is time to try something new. What do you suggest? Embrace the chaos. Do not try to control it. Use it. Build something that can change, adapt, fight, and win. Not despite our differences, but because of them. Yuna watched the celebration below. She thought about everything that had happened. The fear that had built the barrier. The desperation that had opened it. The war that had followed. The peace that was slowly growing. The founders thought of themselves as gods, she said softly. That is what Tolan told your leaders, is it not? They said you were the one thing the gods could not control. That is what he said. He was wrong. Yuna turned to face the human beside her. Despite his age, despite his small size, he still had that presence that made her instincts pay attention. The gods did not fear you because you were dangerous. They feared you because you proved they were not gods at all. You were the mirror that showed them what they really were. Frightened children, building walls to keep out a universe they did not understand. Park nodded slowly. And now? Now, we learn to understand it together. She gestured at the observation window, at the stars beyond, at the countless worlds and infinite possibilities waiting out there. The Hollow will return. Other threats will appear. The universe is vast and dangerous, and does not care if we survive. Sounds like fun, Park said. Admiral Yuna, for the first time in her very long life, laughed. It surprised her. She had not laughed in years. Yes, she agreed. It does. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Hollow were waiting, preparing. But they were not the only ones preparing anymore. The galaxy had learned something important from humanity. Fear was useful. It kept you alert. It kept you fighting. But fear alone could not save you. You also needed hope. You needed creativity. You needed the stubborn refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. Humans had all of those things. They had kept them alive through 10,000 years of imprisonment. And now they were sharing those things with the galaxy. The Assembly had called them monsters. They had called them the species even the gods feared. Maybe they were right, but maybe that was exactly what the universe needed. Not gods who feared chaos. Not perfect beings who could not handle disorder. But messy, complicated, stubborn creatures who looked at impossible things and said, "Let us try anyway." The stars shone coldly through the observation window. Out there, somewhere, the Hollow waited Dodd, but so did Hope Dodd, and this time, Hope had teeth. The end.